see if I can hear my tablet say anything. Notifications? Anything? 1 2 3 1 2 3. Hopefully we're live. We are live. All right. Hello everybody. Welcome to Zara's channel. I'm Aaron, and of course, with me is our channel host Zaraft. There's the notification. Um, so we haven't been able to play our any Dungeons and Dragons lately, right? It's been a while. Life's kind of gotten in the way. Um, but we wanted to stream for about maybe half an hour, just to let all you know we're still here, we still care. And yes, we still care. Um, and then we wanted to just use it. We can't play today either. And we can't play next weekend because next weekend is President's Day weekend in the United States, and it's a little bit of a long weekend, and um, so it's yeah, yeah. So so we thought that instead, just to make sure that y'all knew this channel was still active, that we'd do a little bit of a retrospective, Zareth and I, on the Desert of Desolation campaign that I've been running for. I was gonna say 2 years, but you think it's longer than that? Wow, really? Wow. Um, that's a lot of mileage out of three flimsy modules from first edition AD&D. So, there's been lots of highs. As the DM, there's been lots of highs. I kind of struggle to try to hit all the notes that I felt like both the author thought was important, and also things that I wanted to make sure to emphasize or maybe sprinkle in a little extra. So it's and some of those I felt like I have missed a little bit. Um, as far as that goes, like maybe this is going back. So just as a recap, so the Desert of Desolation was actually three uh, different first edition modules. The first one was Pharaoh by and these were all written by what's the author's name? Zaref? Tracy Hickman. Yeah. So the first one was written by Tracy and his wife, I think then wife Laura Hickman, and then um, the second one was the Oasis of the White Palm, and then the third one is the one we're currently in, which is the Lost Tomb of Martek. Um, so going back to the first one, the one that I've kind of felt like I missed a beat on was um, the maze inside the pyramid. Um, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, so there was the maze. There were other things that it's like I really had to scale back because first edition D&D, it's all about the deadly traps. You make a mistake, it's deadly. Yeah. And so it was difficult to try to scale it back. And it's funny because I think the first, like especially with Pharaoh, um, the traps were quite deadly. I think you're still technically tier one at that point. Um, and then going further from that, it it kind of the whole dynamic changed. I think with 5e and then the first edition conversion was I think as players you became a lot more powerful relative to what the adventure was written for. Um, yeah, and that wasn't part of the adventure. That was my own concoction. I think the monster the supplement to the monster manual. What was it? I don't know if it was Volo's guide or if it was Mordenkainen's or not Morden. Okay. So, anyways, that scorpion creature, the what's it called, the Tlinkali, I think was in that book. Yeah. Never worked out that way. But that one wasn't in the adventure. It wasn't even in the revised version where they put all three modules together and just call it the Desert of Desolation. Um, what it was now that location was in the adventure, and that location was critical to setting off the overall epic storyline, which was this prophecy above Martek, right? And it was interesting because and if you go back, the criticisms that everybody had was there's no good reason for the party to go to this location, and instead they should just go straight to the pyramid. So I went through a lot of hoops to try to railroad you without you realizing it by having you encounter a caravan that had been wiped out and following the tracks, which were actual scorpion Tlinkali tracks or whatever. Let's just call him Scorpion King because come on, that's what it looked like. Everybody thought Scorpion King. Yeah. So y'all follow these tracks, and it's one of the as a dungeon master, I'm like, okay, good. They're taking the plot hook and they're going along with it uh, to sort of what should be. It felt a little bit more organic, I hope, than just saying, oh, you're just gonna go to this place and you're gonna screw up and release the freebie. But like you said, it was a deadly encounter. Yeah, yeah. That was, I think, the other problem that I had. I think really, if you go back and watch our first stream, it's a lot of these streams are painful for me to watch because I do a lot of uh and flipping pages and stuff. So I can't imagine how bad it would be for a viewer. Um, I think as a player, you don't notice it as much maybe because you're just like, oh crap, what's happening next? Maybe it just builds the tension for you. you know but for me, especially that first adventure, that first session, which I guess technically was a session zero. We tried to do a session zero outside of the stream beforehand, but it technically ended up being a session zero. And so there was a lot of well, hold on. Okay, well, no, let's not, I did a lot of that, I think, that first session, just to try to make sure that, like you said, everybody had their characters and it all fit together and their that love swords. Right. It's not. Yeah, that is a good point. And in fact, I would say the fact that maybe the character wasn't quite fleshed out at the time, but as the DM, I actually kind of appreciated more that you only gave a rough outline for the background of your character, because um, that gave me actually a lot to work with as far as keeping you hooked and keeping the other characters hooked. Um, yeah, yeah. One of the things that I think that everybody kind of agreed with, and it's a character that I'm not familiar with, was when we were kind of discussing Darallax's character. I think everybody kept talking about what's his name, Armstrong. What's the guy's name? Okay. Yeah, and I think that kind of was why I had you. Uh, One of the magic item drops was a T-shirt of flexing, right? Where it would magically mend itself overnight, but you could just go, and it would rip and expose your muscles. But so that was actually kind of one of those good things that, yeah, I know as far as like how to play the character, that you're saying, yeah, that was a shortcoming, but I there's a difference between what's the character's attitude and personality versus, and fleshing that out, versus what's the character's background. And like I said, I really appreciated that that background was kind of left open for me to, yeah, just enough of it to kind of give me room to play with and to keep you as the characters and invested in the story. And mhm. Yeah, he still has to be the straight man, yeah. And yeah, yeah, yeah. Remsethi was Doug's character from Doug from the Nerditor, right? Nerdarchy Neditor. Hmm. And yeah, no, he had other things to juggle, so um and it was great having him for as long as we did. It kind of really helped kickstart the story. And Remsethi was kind of a cool, trippy character. It was like uh, a force gnome druid, right? A dream druid, or what is it? Yeah, yeah. I think it still is. Yeah, I would say still is. Was a half orc barbarian berserker, and yeah. What's funny about his, and this is less about the character, and yeah, everybody, Muglug, he's straight out of like a '70s wrestler TV show, and just with the over the top attitude and everything that, um, but what I thought was funny was, um, the barbarian berserker in 5e. Real quickly, we figured out that he was going to be screwed because that exhaustion was going to start piling up. And and one of the other things, what's funny is about, especially about his character Muglug, and me as the DM, to try to make sure a lot of the challenges that I throw at you and that I have thrown at you have been not as challenging, with thanks to Muglug, thanks to that thanks to that barbarian berserker, right? Um, which has been frustrating for me as a DM, but at the same time, it's still kind of cool. But what I did at the same time, this is one of those where it's like I'm my own worst enemy as the DM, because I still wanted Pete to have fun with the character. Sometimes some of the most crazy, stressful encounters, specifically, the battles, are when Pete's character Muglet gets shut down, like stunned or paralyzed or held. Yeah, you ended up effectively splitting the party and and leaving the squishiest guy with the big baddie. But but yeah, those situations. I know it's been frustrating for Pete as a character when you're it's frustrating for anybody when your character gets held, um, charmed, or whatever, right? But it seems like those are the only times that I've actually able to make the encounters challenging for you, where everybody's left biting their nails, like, oh crap, hampering Muglug in some manner. Um, but so Muglug is definitely, but what I ended up doing, where I said I'm my own worst enemy, was the magic item drop that I gave him, which was just totally in line with his character being a wrestler. Was, what do wrestlers hit each other over the head with? A folding chair. So I gave him a magic folding chair, which was effectively. But and it's like, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna craft this, in the hands of anybody. It's an improvised weapon, but when it's attuned by a barbarian, it's got the stats of a +1 maul, and and but I added that extra ability to it, that couple of extra abilities to it. One of them, which again, you always see this in classic wrestlers, is he hits them upside the head with a folding chair, and then they stand there like they're stunned, right? And then that allows the wrestler to give them a wedgie or do whatever the heck else they're gonna do next. And so I was like, well, I'll add like the monk's stunning strike. Twice a day he can use the equivalent of the monk's stunning strike with the folding chair um, attack. And I think at first he forgot he had that, but then it seems like lately he's been using it quite effectively and quite to my uh, uh, making sure to frustrate me once again. And then the other thing that folding chair does is it's a chair. So what do you do in the chair? You sit down and it's to rest. So he can use that once a day. He can use that as a short rest, sit on his folding chair, and recover one level of exhaustion. So that's actually gave um, it kind of basically it put his the class abilities back into play again, because I really think. Mhm. Was non-lethal damage, yeah. But yeah, that gave his character the ability to kind of go berserk more often without being hampered or by that whole exhaustion mechanic, which I think it's one of the things that I don't if you I think that's one of the shortcomings of 5e. We don't hear too much about criticisms of the barbarian subclass or whatever, but that berserker ability, the fact that you're limited, that it screws you by imposing exhaustion upon you. If you're not keeping track of that, and if you're doing like what I'm doing, where you're throwing two, three, maybe more encounters a day at the party, that even just two or three encounters is enough, because that exhaustion you can only recover. Normally, you'd only be able to recover one level of exhaustion per long rest. So that kind of, I think, helps that a lot. Um, but like I said, that's probably one of the things that's probably goofy about 5e, that could probably use a little bit of tweaking, but Ranger notwithstanding. And don't get me started on the Ranger. Uh, but Fro Fro was played by Jody, and Fro was I think I've heard other people do this take on the Bard, but I really liked it. But it was original to me when Jody did it. And now it's like I'm a Bard, but I use cooking and food as my way to inspire others. And yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, Hormir, tiefling cleric. Yeah, and that was kind of cool. With that one, he so actually the first thing about that is the magic item that he ended up getting, the staff of the pharaoh's ruling staff, was actually in the book, and I kind of had to tweak that a little bit for 5e to make it seem more balanced and meaningful, because sometimes when you convert them, they don't quite translate one for one. Um, but I think the thing that uh, the I think for Toby, probably the best part about that magic item drop was Sneck, what he named his the snake. The staff can turn into a snake, and he named him Snack. And it basically, it's almost like a figurine of Wonder's power, right? Um, yeah, Sneck was cool. And then I think, what was it? The last adventure, the last session we played, Sneck almost died, and I think everybody really like held their breath, right? Like, oh shoot, is Aaron gonna kill Sneck? Is he really gonna? It is. I mean, I know at first he didn't make too many appearances, but he's made appearances where it counted, right? Including the encounter with Kulam. But okay, so sticking with Hormir. Hormir also, I think, really came into the character, came into his own. It was already kind of developing, and like you said, part of it was he's the straight man for the party. But when Hormir came back, rejoined the party after a brief hiatus by Toby, um, I was like, well, y'all are past fifth level, and Adventure League is kind of said, by then. I think Adventure League had already said, well, if you're Tiefling, you're fifth level, you can go ahead and reskin as the take the variant, instead of the infernal variant or whatever the heck, you can go ahead and take the wings. And at that point, since you were already kind of past a couple of key milestones in the adventure, where it was like, oh, they've got to figure something out, assuming that nobody in the party can fly. So you were already past that in the adventure. So I was like, okay, yeah, so that's not that big of a deal. Now you can have wings. So so he came back with wings, and then that kind of he really expanded him, I think, as far as how his character was going to be. It helped him flesh out his character a bit more too, right? Um, to what kind of character Hormir was, and um, the baggage that he carries with him. That character Hormir does, with his lineage and whatnot. Yeah, yeah, which is kind of cool because it kind of keeps it mysterious, but you get just enough of a feel to know that, oh yeah, this is baggage, right? It's and it's kind of what makes the character interesting. Um, so so yeah, we've talked about Muglug, we've talked about Derilax, um, a bit. Like, we haven't talked about Derilax's family. It is. We're building up to it. And so what I will say is that we know that you have a mother. who crafts magic items, but you're not sure why, if she knows about you, why she wasn't in your life, and how did you end up as a slave and as a pit fighter slave to, at that point. And answers are coming. Hopefully they'll be organically revealed, or at least they're in here. I just don't know how to, as the DM, I'm not sure when will be the right moment to reveal that, or if it'll come up. I'm hoping something will come up, but you also found out that you had a brother, an older brother. But and then you saw that he was like a paladin, right? Um, right, and I think that kind of is good because it kind of shows um, a little bit of character growth for Darilax, right? That he's moved past that fatalistic view or whatever, or point of view. And so the pyramid itself, so the first adventure, Pharaoh, like I said, that maze level, the one where you're kind of in the sulfurous fog, that one I was like, I'm like, I screwed that one up, or I didn't really feel that there was a good way to adequately portray that in a live stream. Um, and if I showed the actual map on the stream, then it would be obvious. Not that y'all were the kind of people to go and look at the stream and say, "Oh, Aaron's showing the map, the full map. We can see that," even though there's only so much exposed to you. But just so I kind of just fudged that. Honestly, I just fudged it to made you go to the encounters that I felt were the good, important points without you being frustrated with trying. Because when I played in this adventure, um, we're one of us was the map maker graphing on graph paper, trying to keep track. And then of course when you're doing that and you're doing these adventures where the walls are turning, but you can't tell they're turning, or the hallways are turning, but you can't tell they're curving or turning because of the fog. um it becomes, your graph paper becomes a mess really quick, and then that's, as a player, you're just like, what is going on here? So and I think that, and so that was kind of hard to convey, like that frustration. What can be frustrating, but it's really a puzzle. But then, how do you convey that on a live stream in 5e? The expectations of the game are different, and we don't want to bore the viewers, to whoever, all two of our viewers or whatever. And oh yeah, yeah, Ned the Pie Man. Yeah, yeah, Figgy Pie and whatever. And what was the other one? So Prit was a Prit was a bit of a mess. At least his introduction was not Prit himself, but at least the introduction of Prit. Prit was the gnome that was kind of using a spoon to excavate the pyramid. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You tried to kill him. It was one of those where I think I tweeted out something like, "Helpful NPC, party doesn't believe him 1 second and is ready to kill him." You know, evil NPC that dies, as part of a plot point. You're like, "Oh no, we must revive him." It's like he was evil. Why are you trying to bring him back to life? It's the right thing to do. He was evil. You tried to kill the good guy that was helping you. But so then Prit was in Darilax's vision later on, which kind of I'll admit was just kind of thrown in as well. But it kind of, I think, made things a little more interesting. Yeah, the Minotaur, back in the maze. That's right. You fell down the pit or some trap door, and then landed on a mound of hay, and you look up, and here comes the Minotaur charging you, and the rest of the party is trying to figure out, do we get down this rope? Do we try to get him to climb back up? I don't even know what happened. How the heck you got out of there? And well, that's exactly what it was, right? It was one huge dungeon crawl. Now, then when we got to the, hmm yeah, yeah, the or not the necromancer, the lich, basically. He was a lich, like a minor lich. Right, he was the high priest. Um, but then the second adventure was a little bit hard. Starting that one was hard for me because that was, we had to establish the story that you're going into this kingdom, right? The Oasis of the White Palm, and things aren't what they seem, and there's a mystery, there's an urgency that I need to convey, but at the same time, y'all don't know what's going on, so y'all aren't exactly sure where y'all supposed to do, where you're supposed to go, whatever, right? So that was a little bit tough, but I think as the story went along, as we kind of went on, maybe like the first session was kind of rough, or first couple of sessions. Hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah. And Derelict had kind of become effectively one of the captains of the guard. Oh yeah. Hmm. And the rest of the team are deceased. Yeah. That was good. But yeah, so it ended up, like I said, for me as the DM, it was kind of tough because how was I going to convey all this? How was I going to keep things moving? But then what ended up happening was y'all stepped up as the players and as your characters and kind of fleshed things out further too, sort of added to the whole dynamic, um, of what's supposed to be going on at the Oasis, and you know, that prince wasn't supposed to die, but I thought, I'm just gonna have him get killed, just, you know, 300 style. You know, the high priest is like, you know, the high priest really is the one that wants the power. He was just gonna be put in place as a figurehead. So at a certain point, I'm just like, just kill him. And then let's see. Then I guess for the third adventure, well, okay, let's talk about this. So then, in between the second, and the third adventure is when you're supposed to free the genie, and you don't know, right? Yeah, and as the story's written, as the adventure's written, the party is supposed to be the party that frees the Ifriti. It's you know, yeah, one of the high level ones from the plane that he comes from, the fire plane or whatever. And and but but so then mhm, right, 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 yeah. And then I kind of incorporated the whole theory of why it's called the oasis of the white palm, and that white palm and the magical properties of the acorns from that white palm tree. Um, so so then in between the second and the third, the way it was originally written, it's just you go to another place and you pop the cork out of the bottle and free the Freedy. Um, and then the revised version of it, you go to the city and it's kind of like a funhouse maze. You go to the city of Phoenix, you go through this funhouse maze, and then you get to the end, and then you pop the cork and free the Freeney, um, or free the genie. I mean, and the way I did it was you still went through the funhouse. I didn't throw all the funhouse tricks at you. I think there are still enough funhouse tricks in there to keep it interesting. Yeah, yeah. Oh, from that one. Yeah. Oh, down the spiral, the rainbow spiral. Yeah. Kulam, the blue dragon, and that one was my edition. Just like the Scorpion King, this one was my edition, and just like the Scorpion King was almost a TPK, Kulam was pretty much. Again, this is why I don't write adventures. I shouldn't be allowed to write adventures because I end up making him too hard. I think it was all those legendary actions I gave him the first time. But Kulam pretty much TPK'd, including I think Effin Karma's character. She had joined and was playing a monk, um, and that was rough, man. That was rough. Kulam, but Kulam is a character, right? He's burned in your brain now. Uh, he's not dead. Yeah, yeah. Lost his horns, which is you never do. Yeah, which is pretty bad. But Muglug's a melee guy, so he's never going to be worried about ranged weapons. So and then yeah, I think Fro I gave he lost a leg, but then I gave him a magic blade leg. What do we call it? N- a Kingsman, or what's it called? The Kings. What was that movie? Yeah, Kingsman, right? It was styled leg leg sword. um, which I think is funny. A chef, halfling chef with a dagger for a leg or for a foot. Um, and then yeah, so Kulam kicked y'all's butts, gloated about it, tried to make y'all his slaves. Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is interesting because y'all were hampered too, because I don't think y'all had all of y'all's equipment back. Yeah, so what I did there, to be honest, was I thought, well, okay, so I'm still going to scale back the lair actions because that's just too much. The lair actions really puts it on par of like a tier 3 encounter. So I scaled back those lair actions, but again, I still think it was a fair thing because y'all were equipment limited. Y'all didn't have much to work with. Um, and y'all pulled it off. Uh, and in this one, I think y'all realized, okay, yeah, this is a race. Um, to see, as much as it is about fighting Kulam, it's about we gotta free the genie, you know, and that was what releasing the genie is what caused Kulam to rethink his life choices and to leave town before things got worse, too bad for him. So yeah, so Kulam was cool. Um, yeah, exactly. That owned you. But that's funny. That's funny that it's like as players, you're like Kulam. You're like, oh, you know. Yeah. 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 And the Slavers Guild, right? Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You had a couple of magical artifacts to help there, I think, which kind of helped. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's right. Hmm. Yeah, let's see. I think Muglug had a vision about the challenges that were lying ahead. And then Hormir had a vision, I think, regarding how to find the lost tomb of Martek. So, which is kind of cool because, like, in the modules, the way they write them, it's like, oh, by now they should know these rumors or they should have heard about these rumors. So go ahead and feed these to the players. I'm like, well, that's, you know, if you wandered from one desolate area to another, you're not like encountering a bunch of people along the way. The definition of it being desolate is that there's nobody around, you know. So you're not going to hear just these rumors just like, you know, wandering an empty desert. So, I was like, well, hey, they've been knocked out, they're unconscious. Now's a good time to give them visions, you know. Here, go talk to Dumbledore at King's Cross kind of thing. Yeah. And so then, what about with Martech, with the Lost Tomb of Martech? Like once we started back up, what were kind of the things that stood out for you? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, getting owned by a dragon will do that to you. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and realizing that there's this bigger thing that they have a responsibility to take care of, right? Um, you know, the funny thing is, I think I was having like a couple of off days on during those sessions. Like I don't know if I was just sick or just tired, just other stuff going on or whatever. But I wasn't feeling like 100%. And again, this is where it's like this group as the DM, y'all make it easy for me when I'm having like an off night or when I haven't fully fleshed stuff out because y'all bring it and y'all fill it in the rest and y'all make it fun. I don't have to go even halfway. If I just bring like 30%, y'all bring the other 70%. And and I remember afterwards when we we had that first ship to ship encounter on the Glass Sea, and we ended the session, and all of y'all were like, "Man, that was so cool," you know. Yeah, you were. Yeah. The figurehead. Yeah, you popped a wheelie and then ran him down. And then the only yeah, yeah. Yeah. Because he was adolescent, so he had like adolescent angst and adolescent, you know. But yeah, that one was yeah, that was funny. That worked out. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There goes our ride. It's like what? Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and we had the Lamia encounter where Hormir got screwed. Yeah. Yeah. That was cool. Yeah. And then y'all found the entrance to the tomb of Martek. Which I didn't know if y'all were like gonna be like, oh, this is it, this is the end, or like because like at a certain point, it makes you wonder at a certain. I mean, for me, I already know what's happening next, but like for you as a players, are you like, oh, this is it, we found the entrance to the tomb, we go into the tomb, and then the adventure's over, and we've mission accomplished kind of thing. I don't know if it felt like that or if. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm. Yeah. the paladins and the thieves guild, basically. But what's funny is that Mugglug's like, man, we got to get out of here, man. This place is these people are messed up. And yeah, so there was so you're so you're in Martek's tomb, but you're still effectively you're trapped, right? You kind of know the way out. You know how to get out, roughly speaking. That's the problem. Maybe, yeah. I was thinking roughly five, maybe, give or take, right? Because we never know. And some of these, again, like when I'm running these, I kind of have them mapped out. But then I'm like, at the same time, I'm like, well, that's kind of, I want to make sure I keep things moving too. I don't want to unnecessarily drag things out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's still quite a bit. Yeah, it's still been over 2 years for sure. Yeah, 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 yeah. So, yeah, so, coming up, I guess, starting, we'll start back up in like I think 2 weeks, and then yeah, like I said, we'll have no more than 5 sessions. I mean, it may only be like maybe three more sessions actually. Um, and and then uh, and then that'll be it for them. Uh, and Yeah, so we'll see what happens next. As players, we kind of talked about this. Um, do we take them? Do we want to take these characters to see what's next? Do we want to, when it's over, do we want to just kind of leave it as is? Um, and it's a there's two things to it, right? Oh, and I'll let you speak. I'll let you speak. Yeah, yeah. Um, that's what I'm thinking. I'm feeling confident, and I feel good that that's definitely true. That it's the natural end for them, one way or another. Um, and like I said though, but at a from a certain point, because you do kind of, it's like it's just like when you close a book, you're like, oh, I kind of do want to know what's next for them. Um, and like I kind of said to y'all, well, they've saved the desert. Maybe the next challenge will be to save the world, right? But maybe, right, if we ever go back. But as players, as much as we like our characters, we have so many other characters that we want to play. Yeah, yeah. So we can, do a better job of focusing on and making sure that those characters and the development occurs and that the story beats continue. We're not ourselves like, oh, okay, we're gonna play this weekend. Wait a minute, what was the last thing that happened last time? I mean, like right now, I think the only reason that it's been a while since we've played the desert, but I have a feeling that everybody still vividly remembers what happened last session, where we left off, because it was like Hormir almost died. Darilax discovered that this evil sorcerer has a tie somehow or in some way to his brother, and Muglug got his star gem stolen off of him, and that is your way out of this garden of the cursed. And but you need all star gems to exit, and you know that the evil sorcerer and his buddies are after your star gems, all of the star gems, and you know that you need that star gem back if you want to proceed. So it's kind of a what happens next situation, and I know everybody's just kind of like, you know, but um, yeah, because you're not dealing with just dungeon monsters or whatever the heck, right? Skilled, smart opponent, and it is fully aware. They know about the star gems and the sphere of power, right? They may or may not care about the Ifriti or know about or care about the Ifriti and the damage it's doing outside, but and that's the reason why y'all are pursuing it. But uh, yeah, so you've got three very capable characters, and I've fleshed them out as I mean I've given them character sheet character abilities, not just monster stat block abilities. Was that in the Dragonlance? Yeah, 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 yeah. Cool, cool. Yeah, yeah. It's been a challenge for me to run. I ran the campaign before, well, not as 5e. I ran it back in the first edition days. I played it and then I ran it, and um, like I've said before, it only took one weekend to get through all three modules back then. I don't know what I'm doing wrong now. It's taken 3 years instead of 3 days. But but yeah, it was tough. It was tough. A lot of adventures, a lot of the sessions were tough to prep for. Uh, um, but uh, it wasn't tough because well, there were probably two things. Like I said, adjusting the encounter guild difficulty, which I obviously have an issue with, uh, and uh, and wanting to make sure that delicate balance of keeping the story progressing, keeping you hooked, giving you the freedom to role play, which y'all do a lot of, and which is great. Um, and then not totally railroading you. I know that everybody talks about, oh, they hate railroad being railroaded or whatever, and it's impossible for one of these first edition modules to not railroad, but at least to make it feel organic, even if it's, you know. That's good. That's the point, right? So, all right. Well, I think that's it. We've probably gone past our time what we intended, but it was a lot to talk about. So, um, and then as far as our gaming group is concerned, once we finish this up, like we've talked about before, and you said announced previously, we're gonna focus on Avernus, right? Yeah, Shades. Thunder Punch, yeah, Thunder Punch is good, and then Rit, little buddy. All right, well, that's it. Any last words before we end the stream? Yeah, yeah, I enjoyed it. Thanks. Bye. Yeah, sounds good. All right, bye, everybody.